and welcome to GameSack. That's right, I'm finally checking out the NES. Now my first console was a Sega Master System, so I don't have quite the same nostalgia for the NES as a lot of people do, but I do actually have some nostalgia for the system, which I'll explain as I go. I've always been kind of hesitant to do this episode because so many people have talked at great length about the system that, what else is there really to say? But it is super popular for a reason. Anyway, first up, let's check out a little bit about the console itself. Just a little bit.
The Nintendo Entertainment System.
In late 1985, Nintendo revitalized the stagnant video game market in North America by releasing a redesigned version of their hit Famicom console, which was already 2 years old at the time. Nintendo was careful not to use popular video game terminology since retailers were very leery because they didn't want to get burned again due to the recent crash. The system took off very quickly once it was released nationwide. The console features a front-loading mechanism which can become unreliable over time, as well as an onboard chip to prevent unauthorized games. The games were provided on very large cartridges and came in cardboard boxes, which of course were standard at the time. The console came with 2 controllers which featured a directional pad, 2 action buttons, as well as 2 smaller buttons. The shape and layout influenced controller design to this day. Internally, the NES is powered by an 8-bit Ricoh 6502 CPU running at a blazing 1.79 MHz with 2 kilobytes of RAM. It displays a resolution of 256 by 240, generating 52 colors with up to 25 of them on screen at once, with up to 64 on-screen sprites. There are 5 sound channels which pump out some of the best 8-bit music you will ever hear. Game cartridges often had their own chips to expand the abilities of the system to include multiplane scrolling and other features. Overall, there were 678 officially licensed games released in North America for the system. The console was on the market and supported in North America for just under 10 years and sold over 61 million units worldwide. Okay, to start off, I want to talk about some games and series that pretty much everyone equates with Nintendo. Everybody's talked about these a quadrillion times, so I'm going to keep these fairly short. Still, I feel they should be in an episode about the NES, so let's do it. Alright, like I said, we're starting with the big boys that everyone knows. Super Mario Bros. Was included with the system, and it's a truly iconic game. This, of course, was designed by Shigeru Miyamoto. You play as Mario, or Luigi if you happen to be player 2. Your goal is to rescue the princess and kill Bowser dead. This is a tiny game, clocking in at only around 40 kilobytes. That's barely over a quarter mega power, or just over a 1/32 of a megabyte. And it's amazing what they did with this tiny amount of memory. Beyond that though, I was never really that interested in the game. Still, this game is one of the most recognizable in all of gaming, and even people who have never touched a game often know what this is. And that says quite a bit about it. Then, Super Mario Bros. 2 came out about 3 years later. My friend Tom recorded some gameplay on a videotape for me to watch since I only had a Sega and he had both a Nintendo and Sega. I was really intrigued and he did a full playthrough of the game. I eventually got to play it on his system and I loved it, especially all the new techniques you can use to progress throughout the game and the much improved music. You can even choose from 4 different characters, all of them with their own abilities. This was the first Mario game that I truly enjoyed. And everyone on the planet, and probably even some extraterrestrials, know that this is a localization of Doki Doki Panic, so I won't go into that, even though I just kinda did. But that's because I'm a hypocrite! Finally, in 1990, Super Mario Bros. 3 was released, and boy oh boy, people went nuts. And for good reason. This game is incredible, with lots of new powers for Mario to get. I didn't play this one until it was released on the Super Nintendo, and that might be why I still prefer Super Mario World over this one. Still, it has the same kind of structure, and that can't be bad. It introduced the world map to the series, and I really like that. Though I still like Mario World's map better. This is a lot of people's favorite Mario game, and there's quite a bit that this one offers for sure. The Legend of Zelda was another prominent release from the creative brain of Shigeru Miyamoto. This one's more about exploration, finding items, defeating dungeons, and all that. I've got to admit that I never personally played this one until after I played and beat A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo. But I did see it on videotape made by friends during its time. It's really interesting to see where it all started, and of course it's still a challenging game that makes use of battery backup. Everything here is iconic, especially that riveting overworld music. The sequel, Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, changed things up. I really like the music in this one too. The game now has side-scrolling levels placed throughout a large overworld map with random battles. It's an interesting change and one that honestly takes a bit of time to get used to initially, but once you do, it's actually really fun. You get experience points which allow you to raise your levels, which seems weird for a Zelda game, but hey, I like it. Some enemies will steal experience, so be careful. I don't like starting over from the beginning when I die, but hey, at least you get to keep your levels. Metroid is an interesting game that was released in 1986. You guide your dude through a very large maze collecting new abilities and powers in order to progress even further. Or is it a dude? My friend Jimmy beat it and he says you're actually playing a girl the entire time, but I don't believe him. I mean, Jimmy's lied before about things and come on, he hasn't finished it. He's lying, you can never believe him. Still, this game requires a really good memory or a stack of paper to draw the maze. Or maybe an issue of Nintendo Power. But don't toss away that paper because you're gonna need it to write down your passwords. Good graphics and excellent music round things out, and it's one of a lot of games that I wish I could have played on my Master System. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is also another game that most people love. I agree with them, as it's super fun to learn each fighter's tells and whatnot. Combine that with the music and the unique graphics and you really can't go wrong with this one. Of course, if I go a few months without playing it, I kind of forget how. I covered this one not long ago in an episode called Better Than the Arcade, so check it out. And then, of course, is the Castlevania series. I don't want to talk about them much here as I plan on doing a future episode with all of the 8-bit games in the series, which includes the Game Boy games. But the 3 Castlevania games on the NES were ones that I really wished I could play on the Master System back in the day, especially once the amazing Castlevania 3 came out. These games definitely deserve at least a quick mention in this episode. The NES, of course, is also where Mega Man got started. And boy did Capcom take this ball and run with it. Honestly, I don't think most people minded. It all started with the original Mega Man. Then, Mega Man 2. Of course, Mega Man 3 came after that. Then, Mega Man 6. Wait, no, I mean Mega Man 4. Yeah. Then, Mega Man 5? Okay, then Mega Man 6. That's a lot of games in a series on a single console. My favorites are Mega Man 1, 2, and 3. And out of those 3, my favorite is Mega Man 2. Once again, this was one that Tom videotaped for me to watch and I was just enthralled with the graphics and music. While I'm certainly not a huge Mega Man fan or anything, Part 2 is a game that I pull down and play a lot just because it's really fun. Finally, for this segment, Contra needs a mention. This 1 or 2 player run and gun is immensely fun. You're just a dude who can collect a few different awesome weapons in his quest to defeat the aliens and the humans that appear to be helping them. You've got side-scrolling stages, 3D-like stages, and even vertically scrolling stages. Every NES owner should have this one. That was followed up by Super C, which was arguably even better. This one had proper top-down stages as well to play through. You can't go wrong with either of these Contra games. You can go wrong with Contra Force, however. It was originally going to be an unrelated game called Arkhound, but hey, why not sell a few more copies by calling it Contra instead? This game is pretty slow and nowhere near as good as the first two games. Honestly though, it's not as bad as many people make it out to be. It's not cheap either since it's relatively uncommon. Still, there are many worse games on the system that sell for an even higher price. Okay, I admit, I missed some of the big ones, like Tetris, for example. Let's review it right now. This is Tetris on the NES. This is the version used at championships. Otherwise, well, it's Tetris.
Boom! Tetris for GameSack!
Thanks, Chris. Anyway, let's take a look at some more games. Some of them are well known, others not so much, but all of them are interesting. At least they are to me. Karnov from Data East is another game that I was first introduced to by watching videotapes that friends from school made me. This is a port of an arcade game, and you play as a fat Russian dude who naturally breathes fire. You're on a mission to collect all of the letter K's that you can, because that is what Karnov loves doing. My name is Karnov and I like the letter K. I don't know why I said that. That wasn't even a Russian accent. Oh well. Lots of weirdos are out to stop you on your quest. This is one of those games where you need to be really fast on the button, and rapid fire would help, but I just pressed the B button really fast. You can collect items that affect your status and firepower as well as give you abilities. Like a ladder to climb up if you want. Whee! Or a bomb to lay down which will explode when enemies touch it. The collision detection isn't good at all and the game moves really slow. That means this one can be pretty tough, but you know what? I never get frustrated. It's fun to keep trying again and again. The graphics aren't that colorful or detailed, but I do like some of the background designs and even the bosses. The music is extremely catchy and I love it, despite there not being very much of it at all. This is a really fun game to try to power your way through. This is Russian Attack from Konami. Get it? Because it sounds like the Russians are attacking and you've got to kill them all? I guess this made sense during the Cold War days. But actually, you're invading their space to destroy their secret weapon. You're rushing in and attacking, so the title is actually accurate. This 1 or 2 player simultaneous game is a run and knife. Get it? Instead of a run and gun? Yeah. So your main weapon is your knife, which means you've got to take out enemies at close range. You can also jump, but you need to press up to do this, and that means it can be tough to control. Honestly, it's not that bad once you get used to it. When you kill certain yellow enemies, a weapon will sometimes drop. This can be a bazooka or a grenade or even an invincibility star. The bazooka is awesome because it can take out every enemy on a horizontal line. Since this is a port of an arcade game, you die in one hit. Not only that, but it sets you back a ways to a checkpoint. That could make the game seem pretty tough. But even so, it's still really fun. Basically, you need to learn how each type of enemy behaves. You need to know which ones will jump at you because those guys are dangerous. You also need to know which ones will run safely past you if you're on a different level and which ones will climb up and down ladders to get you. The stages themselves can be tough, like here where these guard towers keep shooting at you while these enemies on the ground keep running in. The presentation isn't anything special, but it's certainly not a bad looking or sounding game. Legend of Kage from Taito was always a game I kinda liked. Of course, I called it Legend of Cage back in the day, everyone did. I played it in the arcade, but all of my friends who had an NES never owned this one. So the one time I was allowed to rent an NES from the video store, this was one of the games I rented. And I don't care what anyone says, I enjoy this game. In the beginning, you're just chilling in the trees doing who knows what while your babe is hanging around on the ground. Then she gets kidnapped! Of course, being a mighty ninja, you've got to rescue her. You can throw stars and slash with your katana, but honestly, I find the stars the most reliable weapon. You work your way to the left and you can jump super high and grab onto trees. Sometimes you can get power-ups which will make your attack stronger for a short time. The next stage, you're still moving towards the left. I like how you can hide in the water to avoid attacks. Here, you need to kill a certain number of blue ninjas to beat the stage. Pretty easy. Then you're jumping up and up to the top of the wall to the castle where your babe is held. This part is pretty fun. Then you're inside the castle killing tons of bad guys and going up the stairs to many different levels. Eventually, you find your babe unguarded and you rescue her, as you do. But only seconds later, she's kidnapped again! What the hell, guys? Both the graphics and the music are really simple, but they work for me. I really like the main melody, and it stuck in my head for a few days after I returned that rented NES system. This is great fun, for me at least. In 1990, Taito released Demon Sword. This is basically a spiritual sequel to The Legend of Kage. In fact, it controls the exact same way with your stars and your katana. Except this time, the katana is a demon sword and is absolutely the stronger attack. This is a more fleshed out game designed specifically for the home market. As such, it has a bit more substance, like having your sword grow a bit each stage and getting more and more powerful. Though there are still items in each stage that can make you briefly more powerful. Some items can be collected and stored, then selected on the pause screen. Then you can use them as you play with a press of the select button. You now also have a life bar instead of a one-hit death. And you can get keys to go into rooms. Inside these rooms may be an item or even an enemy to fight. The stages are now meant to be explored, at least to a limited degree. The graphics are definitely more tile-based and everything looks like it was built out of squares instead of the slightly more organic look of Kage. The music sounds better as far as sound quality goes since it's not so high-pitched, but the composition here really isn't anything special. Overall, this is a really interesting game that I didn't even know existed until recently. Well, I knew about the title, but I didn't know it was a spiritual sequel to The Legend of Kage. If I did, I would have played it much sooner. It's a good game, but I still feel Kage was more fun. Okay, Zombie Nation from Kaze and Meldak is interesting to say the least. This is a horizontal shooter, but it's far from ordinary. Evidently, a meteorite crashed into Earth. Seemed harmless enough, happens every day. But this meteorite turned out to be an evil alien called Darkseid, and now he's turning all of America into zombies. He's also brought the Statue of Liberty to life to help him with his evil deeds. But you are the great head of the dead samurai Namakubi. And once you hear of this, all you can do, of course, is to go to the United States and rid the country of this evil menace. I mean, what else is a rotting, dismembered head to do? Stories in video games really don't get much better than this. I prefer it over Final Fantasy VI's story, and so do you. You control this giant head and you shoot eyeballs and vomit to defeat your enemies. And I guess destroy the United States in the process. The enemies are everywhere and they are hell-bent on taking you down. You have a life bar and only one life with a handful of continues. Good luck, because this game is crazy tough. Your shots are just about useless. You can upgrade them slightly by catching the helpless people falling out of the background. I guess these guys aren't zombies? They can be found by shooting buildings and even hidden inside solid rock. How did they get in there? The controls suck big time. Imagine a shooter that had an ice level and you're slipping and sliding all over the place. That's what this entire game is, though some stages seem to be more slippery than others. You keep moving for up to a second after you let go of a direction. This makes it hard to aim your shot and even harder to dodge enemy attacks. But man, those graphics are really good and the sound is even better, with lots of beefy effects. Not a great game by any stretch of the imagination, but it's unique and it really stands out. We really do need more games that are just crazy. The Nintendo Entertainment System sure has a lot of different kinds of games. Back then there was something for everybody. Hell, even today there's something for everybody. Even racing game fans! Can you believe that? Racing games! I like racing games. Rad Racer from Square was another game I rented along with the NES system back in the late 80s. None of my friends had it and I was really curious since I was a big fan of Sega's Outrun. To my surprise, this game had two things that the Master System version of Outrun didn't have. First was the parallax scrolling in the background. That's pretty cool. The second thing was smooth hills. Why couldn't Outrun do this? It made me feel like Sega wasn't even trying. Still though, aside from those two things, this game is far inferior to the 8-bit version of Outrun. You'll often get behind a row of cars which you absolutely cannot pass. You need to constantly hold up on the D-pad to engage your turbo if you hope to make any of the checkpoints. This will make your thumb start to hurt after a single course. This also makes the screen shake, which I don't find appealing. You'll have to watch this video at 60 frames per second to see this effect if you don't already know what I mean. The music is okay. You select it by pressing down on the D-pad as you're racing and cycling through 3 tunes or just car noise. And let me tell you, you'll accidentally be changing that music a lot, especially as you turn. Not only that, but you can engage the 3D mode for the red and blue glasses that come with the game. One thing I like is being able to coast forever after I run out of time and actually being able to make the checkpoint just before I'm about to stop, only to make it and keep going. It was really interesting to see what I felt was Nintendo's answer to Outrun, and even though it doesn't quite match that in my opinion, it's still a good game. Three years later, Square released Rad Racer 2. I didn't even know that this one existed until probably a decade or two later. This is basically more of the same, though it's a bit more polished for sure. Before each stage, you can now choose from 2 different musical tracks or silence. One of the tunes is actually pretty good. You still need to hold up almost the entire time, but at least the screen doesn't shake. I feel they did a better job with the color and especially the background detail on this one as well. Though the car now slides around on the bottom of the screen instead of staying fixed to the center like proper racing games do. Not really a big deal though. You still get to have plenty of trouble with the evil enemy cars. It's a decent game, but I think the most interesting fact, at least for me, is that it even exists. Kid Nicky from Data East and Irem is such a stupid game. My stupid friends made me watch them play this. Just look at Kid Nicky, he's so stupid. Look at this stupid boss and his stupid cheeks. Look at the stupid enemies, they're so stupid, just look at that. Look at this one, he can't find a way out of that situation, he's stuck there forever. And listen to how stupid the music is. Ah, that's okay, I love it all. You are Kid Nicky and you are a radical ninja. You spin your sweet blade to defeat the enemies. It's pretty basic to say the least, but it's fun. You can get an occasional power-up which will enhance your attacks for a brief time. I really like this one where anything that dares touch me dies immediately. This game can seem pretty challenging since it has one-hit deaths, but honestly it's actually pretty easy once you get the hang of it. You'll beat this game in no time. But even if you can't, there's unlimited continue so you can keep trying. I like how when you fight a boss, your blade flies away when you get a hit. That means you need to go get it and you're vulnerable in the meantime. Some bosses require a touch of strategy. And is this boss a kabuki? I talked about kabukis in the last episode. The graphics are nice but simple. In fact, some parts of the game may be a little too simple. Sometimes I notice that the status and stuff at the bottom of the screen messes up because that's just asking too much to keep it in place, I guess. Anyway, check this game out, it's pretty fun. Japan even got Kid Niki 2, known as Kaiketsu Yancha Maru 2, for the Famicom. This one has stages with all sorts of different themes, like a Halloween theme, a train theme, a food theme where McDonald's fries try to kill you, stuff like that. Gone are the one-hit deaths, and you now have a small life bar. You can even turn into a bird and other things. It definitely feels more grown up and more evolved, but it's still pretty easy for the most part. It doesn't end there though, because Japan even got Kaiketsu Yancha Maru 3 or Kid Niki 3 again on the Famicom. Don't be too jealous though, as this is the worst one yet. You now have a bow instead of your blade. You can use it to bounce off of vertical surfaces to get to higher areas. Sounds fun, right? Well, look how damn choppy this all is. Couldn't they afford to use one of the MMC chips or something? This one also has you grabbing keys to unlock doors. Not to mention, the music is pretty bad. The enemies are just as stupid as they were in the first game though. We didn't miss much by not getting this one localized. Gauntlet was another game that, you guessed it, I first experienced by watching a videotape made by a friend. Tengen ported the arcade game home, and originally it was licensed by Nintendo, though Tengen would eventually make unlicensed copies of the game once their feud with Nintendo started. You choose from a few different characters and then run around the maze destroying enemy generators while looking for the exit. If you don't destroy the enemy generators, well, they'll keep generating enemies. There are also keys to grab which make walls disappear. One thing that I like about this one is that it moves pretty quick and it feels very responsive. And the thing that really makes it for me is the music and sound. The music is super catchy and I even love the muffled voices. These were fascinating to me at the time because when the Master System did voices, they were harsh and scratchy, so this is quite a stark contrast in comparison. Be sure to try out this version if you haven't. This is Vice, Project Doom from Sammy, the same company who would eventually go on to buy Sega. Isn't it always amazing how these tiny nobody companies end up buying the big giant ones? Anyway, this is mainly a side-scrolling action platformer. You have a sword for your main weapon and it's really fun to use. But by using the mighty select button, you can cycle through two other weapons for long-range attacks. The first is a gun that shoots maybe only 15 feet away if that. I think I'd be taking that one back and asking for a refund. But it still can be handy sometimes. The other is a bomb which you toss in kind of an arc and it goes much further. You gotta make sure your target is within the arc of your throw though. Each of these long-range attacks needs you to pick up extra ammo as they don't come in unlimited amounts. But ammo is always easy to find. You also sometimes have to slice down obstacles in your way in order to get by. But be careful because sometimes these obstacles will grow back and they'll hurt you if you touch them. The jumping feels pretty smooth as well. However, it's really easy to come in contact with an enemy, but fortunately you have a pretty generous life bar. This game also has exciting cinema cutscenes between each stage with plenty of riveting dialogue written by the best literary masters of our time. But what's more is that this game has a few different styles of gameplay. You start out in an overhead car scene which is very reminiscent of Spy Hunter. Another one is a side-scrolling first-person style shooting game which feels like it could make good use of a light gun. There are two of this type of stage as well as two of the driving stages in the game. The rest is all side-scrolling. The graphics are generally really good with some nice parallax here and there. There are also lots of these hopping Chinese vampires. I don't know, hopping vampires seem silly to me. Why do they hop? Dracula is way scarier and he doesn't need to hop. The music is pretty good too. You really can't go wrong with this one and it offers plenty of challenge over 11 stages. Games on the NES were often very experimental. They took a lot more chances back then than they do these days, at least outside of the indie scene. And one of those experimental games really clicked with me in a big way. Blaster Master by Sunsoft is another one that I have a ton of nostalgia for. Yes, it's another one of those games that I first experienced watching a videotape full of NES games made by my friend Tom. And you're also probably wondering, is this the actual videotape that we're watching right now? Same question for all the other videotape games I've shown in this episode. Did I really keep the tape that long? The answer is nope. See? You can't trust anything anymore these days, can you? Anyway, I can't tell you how many times I watched that Blaster Master segment on that tape. I was enthralled with the concept as it was unlike anything I'd really ever seen before at the time, and the music instantly hooked me. By the time I finally got around to playing it myself, I already had the first 2 stages memorized and knew exactly what to do. The game is by no means easy though. The worlds are huge maze-like things, and I'm usually not too keen on mazes. These can be memorized pretty quickly though, or you can be a cheater and subscribe to Nintendo Power. That's what cheaters do. I'll be honest though, I wouldn't feel too badly about using Nintendo Power to guide me through this one. As you roam around in your tank, there's lots of places that you can enter by making the little guy hop out. He can run, jump, swim, and shoot. Once you get inside, it turns into an overhead view and you search for the boss. The problem is that a lot of these areas don't yield any decent results at all, so you need to work your way back out and go to the next one and hope the boss is there. There's also some backtracking in this game, sometimes even going all the way back to Area 1. Regardless, this game really made me respect Sunsoft and the NES. There's just so much variety in the games on this machine. Not much love is often given to Crystalis by SNK, creators of the Neo Geo. Have you ever wanted your Zelda to have more RPG? Or your RPG to have more Zelda? Well, here you go. In the beginning, you wake up and seem to be some sort of robot, maybe? You're a purple dude or dudette, I can't really tell, but you is what you is. You get your sword in the first town and enough money to buy some armor. That's right, you have a typical RPG town where you can buy better equipment for yourself. After equipping it all, you'll see that the action is like a very slippery Zelda. You attack with your sword to defeat enemies roaming the map. You can also hold down the button for a charge attack, which has multiple levels which you unlock later. The enemies pretty much always drop a coin for you to grab, and trust me, you'll want that. Once again, just like a real RPG, you gain levels. And yes, it can be a touch grindy trying to get experience and money in the beginning, but it's not horribly bad. The control and combat is absolutely nowhere near as refined as Zelda, however. You move fast and feel slippery, and the enemies all move in very unpredictable patterns. This makes it extremely easy to bump into them and lose some life. In the beginning I got stuck because I was supposed to start this windmill, but I couldn't. I had no idea what to do. I probably should subscribe to Nintendo Power. You can also learn and equip magic like being able to heal yourself with the press of a button, or new powers like blowing through certain walls. It truly feels like pretty much any game on the Neo Geo. The menu takes some getting used to, as using items can be kind of cumbersome. You need to engage the item and then come out of the menu and press the button to use it. Saving and loading your game also has a similar level of wonkiness. The visuals are good, but perhaps a step below Neo Geo quality. I do like this part where you go under a bridge. Pretty good for the NES, but I bet you the Neo Geo could probably do that too. The music is pretty good. Not some of the best on the system, but it's definitely worthy. The game is really fun once you get used to it, with lots of things to discover and areas to explore. Definitely give this one a chance. On the flip side is Star Tropics. If Crystalis was too slippery for you, well then you're gonna love this because it's really stiff. You land at Sea Island one day for vacation and find out that your uncle, Dr. Jones, has been kidnapped by evil aliens. Now only you can save the entire universe. To help out with this, the chief gives you the village yo-yo. Gee, thanks chief. And that's your main form of attack in the Zelda-like dungeons. Except here you need to jump on boxes and press buttons. You move very slow and you hesitate for what seems like forever anytime you change directions. It doesn't look as long as it feels like when you're watching this though. Eventually, you'll get some projectile attacks which aren't unlimited, so don't turn on that rapid fire switch. You also take on other missions as you're looking for your uncle, like locating a missing baby dolphin. I mean, come on, this is a dolphin, your uncle can wait. Some areas seem really cryptic at first, like this island, but if you look closely at the graphics, you'll see what's what and figure it out. Or you could just subscribe to Nintendo Power. Just know that some obstacles can be passed through even though there's no visual clue. The game is quite linear, but that doesn't mean it can't be good. And for the most part, it is pretty good. I really wish my character was more responsive at turning though. Since this game hides things that are revealed by jumping on green blocks, you'll find yourself jumping on every green block you see in the game, just in case. Whether that's a good or a bad thing is up to you. One final small gripe is that using magic items is weird because you need to pause the game and press up or down, and that feels really awkward in battle. This one employs an autosave feature that occurs at the beginning of any significant event. Since there's no experience to gain, it resembles Zelda more than a traditional RPG. The visuals are nice, if a bit basic, and the same can be said with the music. The game is still worth checking out though. Four years later, Nintendo brought us Star Tropics 2: Zoda's Revenge. This game takes place only a few months after the original and involves some revenge by Zoda. Most of the things I said about the first game carry over here with a few changes. You don't start out with a yo-yo. In fact, you don't start out with anything. But your first real weapon is an axe that you can toss. It has about the same range as the yo-yo, but you can't pick up dropped items with it. The controls are still a little bit stiff, but they have been vastly improved. You turn around much more quickly and everything feels more responsive. You can also move diagonally now and even attack diagonally. I love that. This game isn't obsessed with green switches either, which is a relief. However, there are some puzzle elements and you'll have to memorize some stuff. Get it even slightly wrong and guess who gets to do the entire dungeon over from the very beginning. That part's not too fun, but the first game did similar stuff if you take the wrong exit from a cave, for example. I feel that the graphics have been upgraded a little bit, but still aren't mind-boggling or anything. The music, though, is much better this time. However, the alarm sound that you get when your life is low is much worse. Still, all around, it's a nice improvement on the original. And there you go, that was every single game ever released for the NES, bar none. Well, except for the ones I didn't talk about. And I'm sure you'll let me know which ones I should have included in this episode. What? How can you have an NES episode without Felix the Cat? Oh my god. Blah 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 blah. Blah blah blah. All I know is that this video game console changed the market, in my opinion, for the better. I mean, it wouldn't be the same without it. Anyway, what are your thoughts on the console? And let me know. In the meantime, thank you for watching GameSack. Does playing with classic controllers make you feel like you're tangled in wires? Well, why not swap out the insides of your controllers with the 8BitDo internal wireless controller replacement parts? Isn't it called 8BitDo though? No, it's 8BitDo. 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 Well, that's stupid. You're stupid. Well, screw this. I hate them already. I'm going back to the wires. Wait, no, we got a controller to sell.